Welcome back to the show, everybody. Well, I have a question for you today on this Friday. Watching bank collapses, watching the government come in and nationalize banking, squash community banking, while we watch crypto in choke point 2.0, while we watch the geopolitical landscape BRICS set up the coalition, a new payment system. I ask you, is this the Great Reset? We've got that and so much more. Somebody roll that beautiful intro.
Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. You can follow us on TikTok, YouTube, and Twitter for exclusive content. Right now, we are looking at $1.19 trillion market cap for crypto. It is up 5.4% here. Let me just refresh this to see if it's any different here. 1 second here. 117 is where we're at. $1.17 trillion market cap for crypto, up 3.6% right now. 26,500 for plus for Bitcoin. We see it's up 6% on the 24-hour. Ethereum 1727, 3.5 on the 24-hour. Tether market cap 75.7 billion. They're saying 37 cents for XRP. It's up 1.9 in the last 24. Let's talk about this because this is your opportunity to be the first ever XRP Las Vegas 2023. 49 days left and counting, and I guarantee you this event sells out, ladies and gentlemen, before we get to the conference day. Do not mess around and miss this chance to come and solidify the relationships that you've built, this community as a whole, as it should be, on this day, May 5th and May 6th. Get your tickets before they are sold out. Make sure you do it. It is going to be incredible. Ask yourself this question really quickly. How many other chances are you going to have to be in the same room with all of these people? It may never happen with this exact lineup again. Make sure you check it out. I mean, it is going to be remarkable. No question about it, ladies and gentlemen. Get your tickets. Now let's get started here. Fidelity Digital Assets quietly opened access to Fidelity Crypto for the masses recently, and that's 37.1 retail customers, in case you're not aware. And remember, Fidelity is a broker-dealer with a broker-dealer's license. I have to start wondering, are they offering it because they already see these two things as a security? One has to wonder how this is being seen by Fidelity to offer it to their customers. Why now? That's the question. I'm happy, but why now? Silicon Valley Bank announced this morning at 8 a.m., as you could imagine, it is filed for bankruptcy protection, ladies and gentlemen. That is just one more step towards where we're going here, and there's a lot of news, and we know that now Signature Bank, FDIC, denies a report that the purchaser must divest from crypto. That was a report that was happening earlier. They came out and clearly said, no, that is not the case. But I have to be skeptical here, whether they're retracting that statement now that they're getting called out about it or not. But they're saying essentially whoever would come in would not have to divest from their crypto businesses as it was originally reported. However, Tom Emmer says here, and he is asking whether the FDIC has weaponized its authority in an attempt to purge the legal digital asset entities and opportunities from the United States, just as was originally reported from different sources. I don't want to say which ones, but, this is the question. Now, we have to wonder what's going on here. Tom Emmer told us there was going to be a new day, and so far, all we've gotten is more tweets. However, Brian Armstrong sees what's happening here, and he suggests the same thing, that exactly what's going on is the choke point, is to choke off the crypto access through the banking system, and it is despicable. I'm using my words there on the end, but nevertheless, it is despicable, but it's what we're seeing, right? But I think there's a bigger picture we want to pay attention to as we move through this material. Understanding we are, to some degree, watching a nationalization of the banking system. We are also watching a forced push to send a message that smaller community banks will not be able to provide the same protections as the larger banks will. So in the last few days alone, $15+ billion has made its way into the larger banks' pocketbooks. Accounts, I'm sorry. But while all of that is happening, and the timing is very interesting on this, as Eleanor Terrett says, the Federal Reserve will be launching its own network in July that is designed to settle payments in seconds. The same year, financial regulators are trying to quash crypto. Stay with me now. And then we get this news that over this weekend, the long-awaited ISO 20022 implementation weekend is finally here for many of us after years of hard work. It's amazing to see our efforts come to life. Wishing all around the world the best of luck. And it's the co-vener at ISO 2022 Payment Standard Evaluation Group. Now listen. I don't know about you, but all of this looks like working pieces to the same picture of a puzzle. I mean, I'm speculating. I could be wrong. You could go, Brad. I think you're an idiot. I don't think it has anything to do with anything. They're all separate issues. Fine, great. Leave me a comment why, because I do not, and I think it continues to build and mount the questions. Caitlin Long brings up a good question here, that with this new launch of FedNow, the Fed neglects to mention that because of the sped up payment services 24/7, 365 payment services this July will increase the speed of deposits moving, therefore necessitating the banks will need to hold more cash to avoid becoming a Silicon Valley Bank type bank run. Now that's a hell of a point right there to make, and I think it's accurate. Very accurate. Now, I want to remind everybody here that the Federal Reserve is a separate entity. It is not a part. It works with the government, but it is a private bank. It is a private bank that controls the Federal Reserve note. Take a listen to this clip from Alan Greenspan's days of the Fed and hear how they make it clear what's going on.
What is the proper relationship? What should be the proper relationship between a chairman of the Fed and a president of the United States?
Well, first of all, the Federal Reserve is an independent agency, and that means basically that there is no other agency of government which can overrule actions that we take. So long as that is in place and there is no evidence that the administration or the Congress or anybody else is requesting that we do things other than what we think is the appropriate thing, then what the relationships are don't frankly matter. And
there you have it. The Fed doesn't care who's president because they do what they want to do. That's what's up. But we covered this earlier in the week, and I'm asking this question again because no one has been able to give me an answer. First of all, we've been watching for weeks now. There's no showing of value here, the dollar to oil ratio from M2 Money Supply, nor is it to silver or gold. Very, very suspicious what's going on there. And then even more to the point, shout out to Molly Elmore who pointed this out to me and asked the question, go back to 2020 and you can see where it shows Federal Reserve monetary base, it has always been there, right? It had always been there. But come back to now, right now on this day, it now says U.S. Treasury dollars. It doesn't say Federal Reserve monetary. It doesn't say that. And when you go over the definition to look at it, it says U.S. Treasury dollars, and this is interesting. It says U.S. Treasury dollars, wealth-based, debt-free, non-interest-bearing money issued by the U.S. Treasury, not by the Fed. And in 1862, President Lincoln issued $450 million directly from the U.S. Treasury. These debt-free, interest-free notes were known as greenbacks. And then again on June 4th, 1963, President Kennedy signed Executive Order 11110, issuing $4.3 billion directly from the U.S. Treasury, bypassing the Federal Reserve Bank. These debt-free, interest-free notes were known as silver certificates. Some believe that led to his demise. But that's what it says. It does not say Federal Reserve note. What in the hell's going on here? Has a change happened? Some people believe that a change has happened already, and we're not aware of it. I don't know. Look, I'm not trying to suggest that I know. I'm asking the question because what in the world? We can go to the debt clock and go back in time here and see it clearly was always the federal monetary. Look, I'll go. You want to go back 2012? Fine. Go back to 2012. Federal Reserve monetary base. I mean, you could do this yourself and take a look for it. But it always says Federal Reserve monetary base. It now says U.S. Treasury dollars. And there's no ratio to these important commodities. Look, but we're watching nationalization of banks happen, the squashing of community banks that can't get the protection that the largest banks can. You know, I'm not suggesting, hey, Tuesday everything's going to be different. You're going to have a new dollar. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm suggesting is that the tectonic plates of the financial world are absolutely shifting. What all of this really means, I don't quite know. I find it suspicious and compelling to want to know more as to why we don't know more about why the Federal Reserve monetary is not written on the U.S. debt clock. And then it reminds me of this, that 3 years ago, we reported on Visa patent filing that would allow central banks to emit digital currencies using blockchain and repatriate the physical cash collected through this non-bank financial institution, payment company. Isn't that interesting? You know, and then that reminds me of, obviously Ripple Partner joins forces with Visa to conquer $1 billion market, Thailand and Australia, D-money, right? Reminds me of Currency Cloud being bought, Ripple Partner for $925 million. Is it all connected? I don't know the answer, but what I do know is that we got a geopolitical situation with BRICS coalition and the de-dollarization of the U.S. dollar as the global reserve currency, and Saudi Arabia, which props up the idea and understanding that is where the elevated status of the U.S. dollar as the GRC comes from. Now, I want you to listen to this clip here, DAI shared here, and it is Andy Schechtman, who is absolutely brilliant, and he's going to break some things down to you about where he believes we are right now.
And as we've been told in both cases, in whether we're talking the BRICS currency or the Shanghai Corporation Organization, they will both use gold to peg to their new system. Whether it be a new BRICS currency that will be pegged to gold. Remember, in order to get everyone to the table, all you have to do is say, look at what those bastards in the West are doing. They're going to freeze your assets. They're going to kick you out of SWIFT. Heck, Europe just voted to take the assets that they froze from Russia and use them to rebuild the Ukraine. So all of these other countries who maybe don't really like what the U.S. is doing, well, that's the rallying cry. It is the gold pegged to a new system that will be the glue that makes it work. So whether it be the BRICS currency or whether it be the petro yuan, which is immediately convertible into gold on the Shanghai Gold Exchange, or the new settlement currency by the Shanghai Corporation Organization, do you think there's any coincidence? Do you think that this is any coincidence that the central banks have bought more gold than at any time in the last 55 years? Look at the three countries that are leading the way. Turkey just joined the BRICS. India's in the BRICS. Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, all of these countries are part of the Shanghai Corporation Organization. They are preparing for a global shift. We are witnessing a massive de-dollarization. And here's the nail on the dollar coffin. Just came out a few days ago. Saudi Arabia said at this latest meeting that at Davos that they are open to taking other currencies for oil settlement. Why? Because there's strength in numbers. In and of themselves, these countries cannot stand up to the West. But together, they have a bigger GDP, a bigger military presence, and they are indeed coalescing together against the Western hypocrisy, against the Western hegemony, and they are coalescing against the West. It's happening. It's happening. I'm telling you, this is happening. The world is moving to de-dollarization. There's no question about that, but let's just play it out for 1 second, right? What happens? How does it happen? How does the Great Reset that Klaus Schwab talked about happens? It's really very easy. Saudi Arabia gets up on stage after all of the I's are dotted and all the T's are crossed, and they say to the West, hey, thank you. Thank you for the memories. It's been great. We appreciate the 50 years of protection. But you know what? You guys are going green. You've already told us you're going green. We've partnered up with 80% of human population, and they're not going green. And so we're going to open up oil sales in other currencies. Maybe they say we're just going to do it in the new petro yuan, or maybe it's going to be the new BRICS currency, the central bank digital currency pegged to gold. But what I will tell you is this, when that happens, when that really happens, now we just saw they're open to it, but when it happens, bang, just like that, every country on the planet that's had to own dollars to buy oil will dump those dollars. And a tidal wave, a tsunami of inflation will hit the shores of the West. And when that happens, God help us all, because all of these assets are inversely correlated to what? To a spike in interest rates. When you see that inflationary tsunami hit the shores of the West, you will see a spike in interest rates that has to rise in order to compensate for the loss of purchasing power. The Federal Reserve is a sideshow. They will never raise rates high enough to compensate. They will never raise rates high enough to tackle inflation. If this happens and the dollar loses its singular world reserve currency and every country on the planet no longer needs to hold dollars in order to buy oil, just wait and see what happens to asset prices in the wake of interest rates that spike to the moon. The three pillars of wealth in the United States or in the West are what? Stocks, bonds, and real estate. All are inversely correlated to a rise in interest rates. So what Jay Powell tells you, we're going to raise it by another quarter point, that's all a bunch of crap. Wait until see what happens when the dollar loses its world reserve status. So what Klaus Schwab said isn't so crazy after all. I think the rest of the world is coming to a point in time where they just say, you know what? Enough is enough. And now we have a whole schoolyard worth of people to stand up against the bully. And I think if you don't own gold right now, you're making a big mistake. You need to own gold like the way the rest of the world is doing.
And you know what? I mean, that is just a powerful, powerful clip. Again, shout out to Andy Schechtman and DAI for sharing that clip. But I tell you something, he finishes right there with, how he's like, he's owning gold because he sees the central banks owning gold. And that's exactly what I've been doing. And I've been doing it with Glint. And I tell you something, this isn't to turn what we just covered into a sales pitch, but literally this is how I'm stacking my pennies next to their dollars, just as Andy Schechtman said, and I'm doing it with Glint. And you don't have to, but that's what I'm doing, because I do feel like something is happening. And even though I might not be able to completely define exactly what it is, I do not find that the banking choke point that is taking place and the nationalization of banking happening right now is mutually exclusive to trying to kill crypto. I do not feel that it is mutually exclusive with BRICS coalition and the new payment system that is being built. I do not find it mutually exclusive with the fact that the U.S. debt clock is now not even showing the Federal Reserve note at all, but U.S. Treasury dollars now, it says. I don't have the answers, but what I do have on this Friday is a lot more questions. Not financial advice from me or anyone else. It's just my digital perspectives. I'll catch all of you on the next one.